Uta, go home, you're drunk. We open this week with our heroines about to eat lunch together, and of course Uta singing about it. Also, fun fact, I was actually able to watch this episode in real time during my little trip to Japan this past week, so I was able to see it bright and early at 8:30. And I think I would have preferred it if I wasn't greeted in the morning with twerking Kier and Fairy. Anyway, they ran into a member of the broadcast committee who told Kokoro that she should expect something special that afternoon. It turned out to be a request to play their single through their systems, which I'm not totally sure if you could just use the school's broadcast for something like that, but whatever. Along with playing a licensed song, the committee also revealed what their theme for their next mailbag was going to be. You had your time, now go on and live with your rodent husbando. But yeah, in spite of also being a pink, Uta was actually unsure of what her answer to that question would be. In contrast, her friends just kind of went with the most obvious answers based on their established traits. I don't know, maybe it's literally in her name. Actually, just as I say that, the episode, or more specifically Kokoro, pointed this out, and Uta gave a rather sensible answer in that she was unsure if she wanted singing to become her dream, or more likely, she didn't want it to become like a job, which is a very relatable sentiment. In turn, Nana gave a sensible suggestion in just taking over her family's business, which Uta was all for, and yeah, that just kind of makes sense. I mean, taking over an established business to make an easily stable living, why not? Also, some really good animation here, which was helped by the fact that they only had 2 animators this week in Akira Inagami and Yukiko Ueda, who are both fairly solid veterans in this franchise. But yeah, while taking over the cafe would be a very solid career choice for Uta that honestly I think she should eventually fall back on. Her parents were quick to point out how it was originally their dream to create a cafe. And while Uta essentially had every right to carry it on after them, she should also consider whether or not it really was her dream and not just a reliable career, which can be the same thing, but not always. With that, the next day, it seemed like Uta didn't get a wink of sleep, but no, actually, she almost immediately got her REM points in. That said, she did end up doing some self-inceptioning and dreamt about dreams in her dream and was continuing to do so in the world of the wake. Also, is one of those pals Mashro? Well, I guess that would kind of fit with the theme of a girl who can't decide on her dreams. With that, after school, Nana and Kokoro decided to help their dreamless leader pick one out. So they did some picture, or rather dream association. That's Kia Kia Ru, damn it! Not wanting to lose their leader to the Kira team, as well as the fact that she half-heartedly reacted to it, the Cures kept on going through a bunch of different dreams, which all basically got the same reaction. Now, that's a bit more of a blue stereotype, as that card's being held up by a blue. But yeah, it was a pretty funny scene, though they did kind of stretch the joke to its limit. However, the most interesting reaction came at the end when they suggested idols and they got no reaction out of Uta.
I'm sorry, what?
I mean, yeah, this is obviously kind of overlapping with the singing stuff from earlier with her unwillingness to turn a hobby involving heavy usage of her vocal cords into a job. In this particular case, she also said that she already achieved her dream by becoming Cure Idol, which, yeah, I wouldn't exactly count considering it involved a lot of magic, and a good chunk of her fan base isn't even human. That said, as we soon see, there were some special conditions in which she would end up wanting to become a singing idol as a dream. In any case, the other big takeaway from this was Uta's teammates acknowledging her as their leader and actually giving some solid reasons for their beliefs, which after some previous seasons, yeah, this is very much appreciated. The next day, Uta ran to Kaito, who of course she went to for some advice, while also reminding us that he's a part of the show too. And in the end, he did end up giving some decent, if rather standard advice, in that dreams don't just come to everyone immediately, and that it's not worth losing sleep over, which Uta wasn't and was just turning herself into a dream zombie. Though, and he also pointed out how having friends like hers could help shoulder her dream, and in a nice bit of symbolism, we got some seagulls flying together in accordance with that one old saying involving birds of a feather, though honestly, I'm not sure if that's actually a thing, but whatever, we like some visual storytelling in these parts. With that, Uta seemingly found her dream, and was going to share it with Kokoro and Nana. However, if you know your Precure cliches, you know these big revelations always have to be saved for after the big monster fight of the week. Though this week, it was actually monsters, as all three of the Choki gang, including Chokine, decided to launch a more organized attack, which actually makes a lot of sense, as the Precure clearly had the numbers game against them. About the only thing missing here was a little more of Chokine's summoning animation, which makes me hope that she'll get a solo version later in the series. Until then though, the Cures finally got their group transformation, and it was pretty damn basic, with a lot of split screening, so they were never actually transforming in the same spot, and there were no really interesting little transitions. I mean, sure, it did stop of shortening the rather repetitive length of all three of those transformations, but if it was going to be this basic, why hold back on it for a few weeks when they could have saved a lot of time in the previous episodes? Most of all, where's the team roll call that's supposed to come after their individual intros?
I award you no points.
Anyway, the Cures encountered the Doronjo of these baddies for the first time. Yeah, she's clearly in the wrong show. Like, seriously, lady, I think I can just about see your left butt cheek. No, and speaking of rear ends... Do I even want to ask what y'all do on your Saturday nights? But yeah, this week's fight did nicely live up to its hype, with the Makaranda actually forming a cohesive trio by not only being able to combine their projectile attacks, but also pulling off some more physical attacks. The idea, of course, was meant to highlight this episode's whole theme about teamwork, with heroes and villains cooperating with each other to make for some more effective unions. The villains had managed to get the initial one-up thanks to the Cures simply not being prepared for such a different tactic from them. Thus, they need to figure out a way to reorganize themselves in spite of being split up in the chaos. Fortunately, they did have a certain multi-purpose device for such. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first accessory that allows the Precure to actually communicate with each other, aside from their changers that also happen to be like cell phones. I don't know, maybe it's my old school Power Rangers fan talking, but I just like it when they actually have special devices that allow them to talk with each other that aren't just like phones. Anyway, Nana suggested that they all regroup together with their respective Makaranda so that Uta could finish them off with one finisher, but as Uta correctly pointed out, they should do it as a team. I mean, in her case, she was likely more thinking that they should maintain that whole team spirit and everything, but I also doubt that Uta by herself could nuke 3 monsters at once. Anyway, as the title of the episode suggested, they performed a team finisher that was a variation on their ending theme, in that they sung a later verse of the song, and of course wasn't nearly as elaborate, but still a decent way of blowing away the villains. With that, they defeated the monsters, who I forgot to mention took the broadcast committee, and why are they lying down with their arms crossed like they're dead? Anyway, Uta explained how her dream was now to become an idol alongside the rest of her team, highlighting how what she really wanted out of a dream was something that she could do with others, which makes sense for her character, and is a good way of highlighting her very selfless nature. And with that, the episode ended with the arrival of someone seemingly the antithesis to Ta, with Purin's little sister. This was a really nice and kind of needed Uta episode. I mean, I think it's fair to say that she did take a bit of a backseat in these past few episodes to make room for the introductions of the rest of her team. Thus, this episode effectively highlighted her part in even forming this team. I think one of my favorite parts about Uta is how they don't try to hide the fact that, like many of her past Pink leads, she is very impulsive, and in fact, they do kind of turn it into a significant character flaw. In the case of this week, she was rather quick to declare any decent-sounding future prospects as her quote-unquote dream. Now, of course, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as the episode did highlight how doing stuff like taking over her parents' cafe would be a perfectly sound dream, but Uta also needed to consider what her own desires were, which she likely hadn't put a ton of thought into. This is likely due to a couple of complications, one being her desire to not turn her hobbies into a dream, and in turn, a future occupation that she'd rather just practice casually. And 2, she is very sociable, so she would want to do something that her whole team could do together, which they were also kind of doing by defeating the Toki gang and everything. But this episode helped to reinforce that idea with their new group finisher, which was okay. I mean, it's probably not that fair, as it's inevitably going to be compared with the actual ending theme just a few minutes later, but whatever. Regardless, it was a good showing of their unity and Uta's ideals for her team, which obviously is something a leader should do. And overall, this is an effective Uta spotlight episode, and her likely ongoing struggles with finding a middle ground between her hobbies and dreams. Yeah, I honestly doubt that this arc is completely over for her, as no one can just figure out a proper compromise so easily, so I think there's a lot more drama to come for this character, which I'm looking forward to. Thanks for watching, and yeah, sorry for the slightly late review. Honestly, I'm still a little groggy from the jet lag, but we'll try to play a little catch up this week. So, look forward to Princess Orchestra tomorrow. Until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and hold on. Hello? No, I'm not interested in timeshare. I gotta figure out how to block unknown numbers on this thing.